Welcome to Superhero Pow. I'm your host nerd, Tom Frumgen. It's been a while since my last Super Friends video, so let's make another one. Now, many people believe that the first season of the Super Friends, from 1973, which ran 16 episodes, is the worst season of the Super Friends. This is mainly because of the lack of true villains and the inclusion of Wendy, Marvin, and Wonder Dog. Heck, when Warner Brothers was releasing the Super Friends on DVD, the first season was one of the last seasons they released. So while sure, the first season wasn't as exciting as the third, it was still a great little show in its own right, especially considering when it came out. And if it wasn't for Season 1, we would have never gotten a Season 3. So there. Still, here are 5 things that made the first season of the Super Friends great. I want to quickly add that this isn't a countdown, so no one element is better than the other. I'm creating a list, not a countdown. So, number 1, music by Hoyt Curtin. One of the things all great animation has is great music. Warner Brothers had Carl Stalling, and Hanna-Barbera had Hoyt Curtin. Curtin was so talented, he basically did every single Hanna-Barbera cartoon from Rough and Ready in 1957 to the GoBots in 1986. And with the Super Friends, he created one of the most iconic superhero themes of all time. Just like his Johnny Quest theme, where he just nailed it by winging an adventure theme, Curtin just nailed it with one of the most epic superhero themes. And of course, he filled the rest of the show with great background music, even the ones Hanna-Barbera often swiped from their other shows. Number 2, Alex Toth. Back when Hanna-Barbera tried to create an action-adventure show instead of their typical funny cartoon shows, they needed new blood. So they got adventure comic vet Doug Wily to create Johnny Quest. And Wily got other adventure comic vet Alex Toth. When Johnny Quest ended, Wily moved on, but Toth hung around and helped Hanna-Barbera create a slew of adventure cartoons for Saturday mornings. Most famously, Space Ghost. But with the Super Friends, he brought the DC superheroes to Hanna-Barbera. His designs of the Super Friends and their world was as sleek and as elegant as anyone could imagine. His designs of the Hall of Justice are magic alone. He always gave shows more detail and thought than anyone else working on the shows cared to give. And his designs would be used long after he left the show, as a new model packet wasn't designed until the final 9th season of the Super Friends. I should point out that he didn't design Wendy, Marvin, or Wonder Dog. I assume talented cartoonist Jerry Eisenberg did those. And surprisingly enough, Toth did not design Superman's face. As you can see here, the powers that be preferred Superman to look more like the dominant artist of the day's Superman, Curt Swan. Still, along with his model designs, he also did awesome storyboards and great layouts as well. Although you can see many animators often failed to bring his vision to life.
We're in double trouble, Batman. Look up there.
Come on, man. Number 3, guest stars. While the Super Friends is famous for their guest star superheroes, they actually didn't originate the concept, which surprisingly goes all the way back to the Superman radio program in 1945, when Batman and Robin joined him for an adventure. In animation, the Marvel superheroes from 1966 had the first superhero guest stars, as the X-Men, for some reason renamed the Allies of Peace, appeared in a Submariner cartoon. The Avengers would cross over and guest star in the Hulk and Captain America cartoons, including Giant Man, Wasp, Hawkeye, Quicksilver, and Scarlet Witch. Either way, superhero guest stars were still a bit rare and a real treat to see. And the first season of the Super Friends had 3 great ones. The Flash was in Too Hot to Handle, and we had seen him previously in 1967 in 3 Filmation shorts. Then there was Plastic Man, who wasn't even a member of the Justice League at the time, and Professor Goodfellow's Geek. 6 years later, Plastic Man would get his own cartoon show. And lastly, Green Arrow, and Gulliver's Gigantic Goof. For decades, it was Green Arrow's only animated appearance. It wasn't until 31 years later, in Justice League Unlimited, that Green Arrow would finally return to animation. So that Green Arrow guest star appearance was like the stuff of legends for us kids. Of course, the Super Friends would then go on to spike the ball with guest star appearances in the next season, but the first season of the Super Friends had some great superhero guest stars as well. Number 4, Procedural Storylines. One of the great things about the first season of the Super Friends is that it was an hour show. Seriously, how many 1-hour cartoon shows can you think of? And I'm not talking about a 1-hour program with several stories in it. I mean, there's only one story for the complete hour. Well, 45 minutes less the commercials. The Super Friends also dealt with real-world issues. In a fantastical way, of course. Like the environment and other societal ills.
Humans, you, me, everybody, we're the only creatures able to upset the balance of nature.
And the only ones able to maintain it.
I guess we'd better take good care of our planet.
Marvin, you said it. It's the only home we have.
This was mainly because typical superhero plots like, "The Riddler's robbing a bank again, let's go get him," wasn't really possible. So, just like the original Justice League of America comic books, the bulk of the action was in watching the team methodically track down the villains, often causing them to research a topic, which added a pinch of education to the show, like learning about the Gulf Stream, as the villains managed to reverse it for their own needs.
Do you know whether the Gulf Stream is a warm or cold current?
Warm, because it's just come up from the equator.
Right.
Now, an argument could be made that the heroes often failed to take full advantage of their powers to solve a problem, but it's kind of refreshing to see this kind of storytelling in a superhero adventure.
Can't be shut off.
Number 5, the team of heroes. This one, of course, is the most obvious. The best thing about the Super Friends was the Super Friends themselves, even if it wasn't the first superhero team cartoon. Hanna-Barbera did that in 1967 with the Fantastic Four, and the Super Friends wasn't even the first time the Justice League had been animated. Filmation did that in 1967 as well, with 3 shorts and the Aquaman cartoon show. They also did the Teen Titans. But those cartoons really pale in comparison to the Super Friends. The Super Friends was the biggest, boldest superhero show for decades, even with all the restrictions of the well-meaning parents groups, like the infamous Action for Children's Television, which basically drove superheroes off TV in 1969. But then in 1973, Hanna-Barbera got the wise idea of mixing a superhero show with a Scooby-Doo type show, and thus the Super Friends were born. In an interesting side note, the waters were tested in 1972 as Batman and Robin guest starred twice in the new Scooby-Doo movies. In the same year, Wonder Woman and Superman both guest starred in The Brady Kids by Filmation. So at the time, the Super Friends was like superheroes' grand return to television, as Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman and Robin and Aquaman would go on adventures and pal around too. What more could you want? Okay, supervillains. But still, the team is what made the show great. So there you go, 5 reasons why the Super Friends Season 1 was great. One last interesting thing about the show is how it differs from the other seasons, as they spend more time explaining the Super Friends' presence in the world, like their military liaison, Colonel Wilcox. Following seasons just took everything for granted. And based on Toth's designs, the Hall of Justice was more functional, as opposed to being merely a backdrop for the future seasons. I mean, look, they're actually using that table there. Plus, you can actually see how the Hall of Justice is put together. I always assumed the trouble alert was on the back wall, but no, it's on the front, in between the doors. Just really great stuff. I wish they utilized it more. Anyway, I hope this gave you a better appreciation for the Super Friends' so-called worst season. And thank you so much for watching. And if you could be so kind to like and subscribe, I promise I won't bore you with all the painful details of Wendy and Marvin getting backstories in the comic books. I mean, who really cares, right?